All right, let me get my little ticker up just so we can beat that dead horse of joining the Unwoke Army. And let's jump into what I want to do today, because what I want to do today is investigate equity in the Portland, Oregon school district. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to find. Basically, I'm going to do a live demonstration of the process that I go through when I'm looking into a school district. Okay. So this is something that anyone can do. And guys, I'm developing a project. I'm actually really excited about this project. I'm going to teach 10,000 parents to do investigations just like this. And more information on that is coming soon. And I'm really excited about it. But I want to walk you through the process that I use, because I really think it's important that everyone know that most of the information that you need about what is going on in the public schools in your town is going to be publicly available on their website. This is something that I've learned over now doing many of these investigations into the school district. They're almost always doing this stuff right out in the open on their website, on their social media, on their teachers' social media, on their contractors' social media, and literally all you need to do is look for it. But they oftentimes don't make it easy for you. Oh, look at that. They're all wearing masks still. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? But anyway, you just need to know where to look for it. And the schools, I think, I don't know if they purposefully try to make this confusing, or if it's just one of those things that it's like, it's incompetence in how they build out their websites, so it becomes very confusing. But I want to show you guys the process that I use, and we can use this as a group activity. You guys can all participate in this as well. Let me put the website URL into the chat that we're going to be investigating today. Now, this is the Portland Public Schools. So there are going to be multiple schools within this particular school district. And what I want to look for is, how is the Portland schools, how are they doing equity in their schools? And so you can feel free to play along and investigate this with us if you would like to. I've put the link in the chat on YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, and Rumble. I do stream on all those platforms. I'm probably going to be cutting out the Rumble stream pretty soon, just because I don't think people are using it. But if you want me to keep streaming on Rumble, you need to let me know. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it anymore, and I'm just going to upload the videos later. But you guys can let me know how you feel about that. But so what I want to start out doing is, so the first thing that I always do when I'm investigating a school, we could go to department. We could go to department and get a long list of their departments. But what I actually want to do is just go right over here to the search bar, and I want to search for equity. Now, as a reminder, equity does not mean equality. Equality is about equality of opportunity. It's about everyone shows up and the best person gets the job, or what have you. Equity is about everyone gets the job, and then we readjust the standards for the job to the most mediocre possible standard. So anytime a school has an equity office, anytime you hear the word equity, you need to think critical race theory. You need to think anti-racism. You need to think Marxism, because it is. Equity is a Marxist concept. From each according to their ability, to each according to their need. That's a Marxist concept. And so we want to use the term equity as interchangeable for our purposes as critical race theory, anti-racism, even getting into social emotional learning. They all have different definitions, but for our purposes, for an initial investigation, we are going to treat them all like they are the same, because these concepts overlap with each other enough that when you're looking for information, because our goal here, this is not an academic exercise. This is not about having the most scholarly definition. This is not about creating a fucking infographic or whatever Peter Boghossian does. This is about actually finding out what the schools are actually teaching. So for our intents and purposes, we're considering them the same, because our only goal is to find the information that we're looking for. So we're going to do a search for equity. Bing. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at all the stuff. Now, I did actually know this was going to come up, because I did a quick search for equity before we jumped on the stream today. Look at this search for equity on the Portland Public Schools page. Racial Equity and Social Justice Department, Racial Equity and Social Justice Lens, leading with racial equity and social justice, racial education equity policy, draft racial equity and social justice plan for 2018 to 2019, which tells us that they have been doing equity in Portland for at least several years now. Yeah, Bob points out 7,390 hits. Look at how many search results we have for equity on the Portland Public Schools website. And on and on and on. So we've got a lot of stuff to go through, guys. Lot of stuff to go through. So where we're going to start is right here. And this is as far as I got when I started looking at this stuff earlier. So there's a lot of things that we need to sort through on this page. One of the first things I want you to notice is they have an entire equity staff with their email addresses public. Huh. It's kind of like state email addresses or public information, Twitter. By the way, Joshua is pretty sure I'm going to get my Twitter account back. And we both anticipate that heads are going to when that happens. And it's going to be fucking beautiful. But looks like they've got a bunch of contacts. Now, one of the things we've learned, or that I've learned when we're investigating schools, is that you've got to keep an eye on the actual players involved. So what I would do, if I was investigating the Portland City Schools, what I would do is I would start to make a spreadsheet with each of these people listed in it, because these are their equity people. Okay. And so one of the things that you're going to want to do, if I was a parent in the Portland Public School District, I would investigate the social media of every single one of those contacts. I would look into their personal social media. I want to know what they're posting on Instagram. I want to know what they're posting on Twitter. I want to know what they're posting on TikTok. I want to know what they're posting on Facebook. And that's for their personal accounts, because that's going to tell you who these people are and what they believe. And sometimes it takes a little digging to find their personal accounts, but trust me, it is completely worth it when you do. Now, we're not going to do that on the call today, because that by itself would take a minute to be able to do that. But no, we're not going to post those email addresses on Twitter just now, because even though they're public information, Twitter apparently likes to ban my fucking accounts for posting publicly available information. So we're going to hold back right now until I get my main account restored. Jim says, Jim, fun fact, they're also spending over $30,000 per student, and the education is crap. Also, the governor of Oregon has suspended high school graduation requirements. Oh yeah. There's a whole metric ton of insanity that we can look into in the port. Like this little investigative thing could conceivably be a several days long project, or weeks long. Who knows? We might be here for a while. So we already know that they have a lot of equity people, and they have people like, look at some of these titles. Senior Advisor on Racial Equity and Social Justice. I want to know what that person does. This person is a Racial and Equity and Social Justice Confidential Executive Assistant. Oh, look, bot's already doing an investigation. Well done, bot. Excellent. We've got several project managers, several program managers. So what a project manager or program manager is these people are probably the ones liaising with the different schools in Portland. So there are several people that are taking what this equity office is doing at a district level and bringing that right into the classroom where the students are in Portland. We've already found one on social media. Awesome. Well done, bot. Now let us know if there's anything crazy there. So we know they have a big staff. That's always going to be, if they have multiple equity people, that's going to be an indicator that there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. Okay? Because why would they need that many staff members if they didn't have messed up stuff going on? So let's just take a gander around this website. We've got Racial Equity and Social Justice Lens. We've got their equity policy. We've got their social justice framework and plan. I'm interested in, let's just take these one by one, actually. They're doing professional development. Oh, shit. We're just going to open all of these. Summer safety and enrichment. What the fuck is that? Childcare, son. Response to hate speech. Naming and defining places. Wow. There's so much stuff I want to look at here. Let's look at this. Naming and defining places. The Portland Public Schools plan to re-examine names of Oh, so they're renaming buildings, essentially. They're establishing entire committees to rename buildings. All right, well, that's not that interesting. It could be interesting, but not so much interesting right now. So Stephanie's asking a great question. What do you do with the info about their personal social media when you first start investigating all of this? And this is true of every piece of information you find. With schools like Portland, what it's going to be like when you first start investigating it is it's going to be like a fire hose of information. And so the thing that we're most concerned about when we first start investigating is we want to get some sort of indicator. Is there crazy fucked up shit going on here? Yes. Okay. And then we start just categorizing information. So we might make a spreadsheet of the names of people involved. We might have a list of policy documents, things like that. But you're basically just categorizing information as best you can at the very beginning. So for right now, for their personal social media stuff, you don't really want to worry about it at all. But it's something that, like, if we find that, so what we might find is that, like, so Danny is the head of the racial and social justice, like, equity program in the Portland Public Schools. If Danny is posting crazy trans stuff all over her social media, I want to know about that. If Danny is posting Black Lives Matters fists all over her social media, I want to know that. Is Danny posting about is Danny encouraging Antifa activity in Portland? I want to know about that. Because what they're doing in their personal social media is going to reflect what they're bringing in to their job. So it's just a matter of understanding and categorizing it for right this second. I don't know what to do with any of this information yet because I haven't looked at it. So we want to get a good general overview. But that's a great question, Stephanie, and I appreciate that. All right, response to hate speech. Let's read their hate speech statement. PPS is committed to realizing our country's vision that a graduate of Portland Public Schools will be a compassionate, critical thinker, able to collaborate and solve problems, and be able to and be prepared to lead a more socially just world. So we already know that Portland schools are training kids to be activists. Prepared to lead a more socially just world. That means they're training activists. Where's my highlighter? Bing. Why isn't my highlighter? Oh, there it is. It did work. Okay. Our priority is to provide welcoming, safe, inclusive schools where every child can learn, grow, and reach their potential. Several schools experience incidents and demonstrations of hate speech and threaten our core values of racial equity and social justice. Okay, I want to know how they're defining hate speech. A cross-functional team with membership from several departments and the input, blah, 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 blah. They came up with a hate speech policy, non-discrimination policy. Oh, confronting white nationalism in schools. Great. All right. I don't see anything crazy on this page just yet, so we're going to move on. So the reason I'm going so quickly is because A, I only have a couple hours that I can stream here, but B, when you're doing an initial overview on a school that you think might be doing a lot of crazy shit, it's like triage. So what we're doing right now is just doing a quick overview and we're triaging. If something doesn't look uber crazy right now, I'm going to quickly move on to the next thing. And actually, I'm going to go back over and I'm going to start doing it this way. Okay. What does it mean to have a racial equity and social justice lens? Oh, God. All right. Let me see. Yes, I would like to download the document. Guys, always download everything. Download every single thing that you can possibly download. Let me see if I can make this bigger for everyone while still being able to see it myself. Okay. Portland Public Schools is committed to academic excellence and personal success for all students. Central to that commitment is support of racial equity and social justice. So you can see this was updated recently, relatively recently. Will my highlighter work on here? No. Oh well. In May 2019, Portland Public Schools adopted our community-informed vision, Portland Public Schools Reimagined. Portland Public Schools is committed to preparing students to lead change and improve our world for the district. We aim to become by 2030. Do you think it's any coincidence that they just happened to have 2030 as their goal? I don't. Vision, core values, graduate portrait. In order to advance towards the vision and achieve the 3-year board goals, Portland Public Schools examined its current state to develop a theory of action for change to identify key priorities. We utilize this theory of action to provide focus and to center our decision making on experiences of students of color. Our theory of action explicitly calls out the pernicious institutional and cultural racism embedded in our system and prompts us to take action that disrupt the barriers that hinder us to reaching our goals. If we braid racial equity and social justice strategy into our instructional core, ding, 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 ding. Portland Public Schools is teaching equity and social justice as part of their instructional core. They're teaching it in the classroom. And we know that because they told us they were doing that in their strategic plan theory of action. We are building these into our instructional core, work with our students, teachers, and content, and build our organizational culture and capacity to create a strong foundation for every student. Then we will reimagine Portland Public Schools to ensure every student, especially our Black and Native American students who experience the greatest barriers, that's kind of racist, realize the vision of a graduate portrait. In 2011, this shit's been going on in the Portland schools for over 10 years. We saw that in Burlington too. Burlington has reports for equity in the school district going back 10 years. So Portland has literally been doing this stuff since 2011. Let that thing sink in. That was 4 years before the crazy nonsense at Yale started. That was what? 6, 7 years before Evergreen? 6 years before Evergreen? 7 years before Evergreen? So they've been doing this a long time. It is entirely possible. I actually wonder if this is true. This could be something we could ask Benjamin Boyce about. It is entirely possible that a graduate from Portland Public Schools was involved in all of the nonsense at Evergreen State College. Wrap your head around that.